Alright, this is a video response to a message I received. It's pretty much like a compliment and then also a critique. I appreciate the person to send me his thoughts as critique, but I see that this is an opportunity for me to express myself and my viewpoint and what he said, and then also to educate us at the same time, as far as getting people to think about certain things when they pass judgment and stuff like that. Alright. So this person, I'm going to read his message, word for word, and, I'm going to comment. He said, hey, I think you're doing a great job on the poetry, and I feel that, it should spread out to people as much as it can. However, as much as the poets are creative and amazingly written, I think the rapping and the instrumental backgrounds must stop, because people are not going to take you seriously. Spread the message with words and nothing fancy, because it seems like you're trying too hard. The rapping disguises the creative writing, and it would not send the message to people, but make them even more ignorant. I'm not saying stop rapping, but it does need some work. I think everyone needs to start somewhere, but practice this at your own time without putting it on YouTube. I'm sure if you keep at it, you'll eventually do well, but stick to the poetry and don't waste time on the instrumental as of yet. Alright, so I understand his comment, and I see truth to that. And really, I just started putting this poetry stuff up. And really, when it comes to poetry, it really depends on what you call poetry. I've been writing seriously for about 12 years. Or not 12 years, about 10 years. Seriously, I've been writing. So, I know how to write. I'm not the best writer, but I'm comfortable writing. I have a particular way that I write. And when I started writing, I would write philosophy. It'd just be, I guess they call it prose, or just basically just writing whatever I want, without making any rhymes or anything. Sometimes when I write, it might sound like poetry, but there's no rhyming. Other times I'll write and I'll be very philosophical. So I would write for many years. Normally I would communicate with people through email, like friends and stuff like that. And I would just write, basically just write and just express myself. It's not called poetry, but it's just writing. Alright. I had it, that's how I normally do it. But I'm not, like I said, I'm not the type of person that use complicated words to try to make myself seem more intelligent than I really am, or whatever. Or just basically just use big words just to use it, just to make it seem like you know more than you really do. I don't write like that. I just write how I normally would communicate, and through the words that I'm most familiar with and feel more comfortable with. So I would be a writer, and that was my one of my best form, one of my most natural forms of expression. But I noticed that it's hard to reach out to people through writing, because a lot of people don't take the time to read. So it was like basically reaching out to people one at a time, which I felt was it wasn't practical enough, not efficient enough. So, I looked into other forms of expression. But I did write for a while. I've been writing for a long time, so I'm comfortable writing. Now, when it comes to poetry, depends on what you call poetry, but I guess what I would call poetry is maybe some of the music that we hear. The music that we hear out there is poetry. Or you got poets like Ralph Waldo Emerson, which is more of a traditional, I guess, like a certain way that he writes. And then you got poets like some of the rap artists, like Tupac. Now, personally, I don't read Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I don't read those other types of poets. Not really. Like William Shakespeare, I don't really read that either. But I am a fan of Tupac, and he really has inspired me. And I guess some of my poetry would kind of have some part of his spirit in it. You know, I see Lao Tzu, he was more like the way that he wrote was like poetry, and that influenced me as well. But as far as other types of poetry, in the traditional sense, I'm not really into that. So I only been writing poetry. I only wrote poetry for maybe a year, and what it is to me, I just rhyme. I don't even know if you call it poetry or rhyming or what, but I just started to rhyme, and basically just rhyme with very basic language. Because the great thing about poetry, the great thing about rhyming, is that you could convey ideas with very basic words. So you could just rhyme words that are basic. So then it forces you to keep your language at the basic level, rather than having to use very overly complicated words where other people don't know what you're talking about except for your own little inner group of people. Say, for example, maybe some doctors, like psychologists, um, dentists, or lawyers. They use words that normal people that don't practice those professions use. They'll use complicated words, that people don't even know what they're talking about. And really, those types of words, you can't really rhyme with them. You know, um, the words that rhyme the best are very simple words. Like door, floor, gore, whatever, bore. So when you talk about hip hop poetry, it's very basic, and that's what I like about it, is that it basically is a way of conveying a message in a different way, in a different language. Now, I'm not like that good at it. There's obviously so many people that are a lot better, but at the same time, I've only been practicing for a year, and I don't expect myself to be very good. And really, but what am I good at, really? I mean, even when it comes to writing, people would talk bad about my writing, even though I've been writing for like over 10 years. People would say, "Oh, you didn't say it this, you didn't put a comma in the right place, or you're not supposed to use it, say it like this." And everybody has their own views on what is correct, And for me, I see that when it comes to this, it puts a lot of limitations on your creative abilities. When people like go in and try to say, do it this way instead of that way, I see that it really changes. It really puts limitations on creativity. And the way that I see art is that there should be no such limitations. You should just be able to express yourself. Now, when it comes to expressing my poetry, people, it is kind of, I'm putting myself out there, because that's not one of my like things that I've been practicing for a while. But when it comes to like martial arts, when it comes to fitness, I mean, I've been physically training for over 20 years. So if I'm making these fitness videos, there's really like, no insecurity or anything like that, because I've been doing it for a long time, and I feel comfortable. But at the same time, people still criticize, people still talk down, people will say something, make fun of you or whatever, even no matter how good you get. So the thing is like, when it comes to poetry, I'm not gonna wait 20 years before I express myself. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just do the best that I can right now, and express myself of what I know right now, or how good I am right now. And through the process, hopefully I will improve. If I do, if I don't, it doesn't really matter. But, people will be able to see my improvement as I go. Or they may not. But either way, I see that people need to really, if you think about it, it's not just about that, about how good you are. You could be one of the best rappers that have ever lived. Say like a Tupac Shakur. A lot of people, he's very famous. A lot of people love him. But then there's a lot of other people that don't like rap music. They hate rap music. So they would, hate Tupac as well. So you compare different arts. Compare rap music and compare it